I'm standing at a crossing in Tokyo where, in a single light change, more people walk past me than live in some entire towns. A wave of 3,000 strangers floods the intersection from all sides at once, and not one of them touches another. No bumping, no shoving, no shouting. They flow through each other like water, and 30 seconds later, the road is empty again, silent, as if nothing happened. I have traveled to a lot of places. I have never seen human beings move like this anywhere else on Earth. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about Japan. Behind the perfect order, behind the bullet trains and the glowing vending machines and the bowing politeness, there is a country wrestling with something genuinely frightening. A quiet emergency that, by the end of this video, may change the way you see your own country too. This is a video about the 10 most mind-blowing truths of life in modern Japan. A nation living simultaneously in the future and in the deep past, where monks can marry and eat meat, where you can rent a stranger to be your family for an afternoon, and where, right now, every single day, the country gets a little emptier. The further down we go, the stranger and more serious it gets. Number 1 is the single most important fact about Japan's future, and almost no travel video will say it out loud. Stay with me to the end, and subscribe, because this channel goes where the cameras usually don't. Let's begin. Number 10. The culture shocks that hit you in the first hour. The moment you arrive, Japan starts quietly rewriting your idea of how a society can work. The first thing that hits you is the silence. On a packed Tokyo train at rush hour, pressed shoulder to shoulder with 100 strangers, there is almost no sound. Nobody speaks on the phone. Nobody plays music out loud. Talking loudly in that space is considered deeply rude. An imposition on everyone around you. The quiet isn't coldness. It's a form of respect so total, it feels like a different operating system for human beings. Then there's the cleanliness, which makes no sense until someone explains it. There are almost no public trash cans anywhere. And yet, there is almost no litter. People simply carry their garbage home, for hours. A used bottle, a food wrapper, all of it goes into a bag and travels with them until they reach their own bin. And the honesty will genuinely unsettle you. Drop your wallet in Tokyo, cash inside, and your odds of getting it back, untouched, are higher than almost anywhere on the planet. Lost phones are handed to police boxes. Forgotten bags are left exactly where they were, because someone might come back for them. I watched a child, maybe 7 years old, ride the subway alone, change lines, and walk home, something most of the world would consider unthinkable. In Japan, it's just Tuesday. You don't ease into Japan. It confronts you, gently, with a completely different set of rules, and makes you wonder why yours are the way they are. As always, the information in this video has been gathered and cross-referenced from multiple sources. If anything is unclear or incomplete, leave a comment and let me know. Number 9. The festival where men strip to fight for luck. Japan looks like the most controlled society on Earth, until its festivals arrive. And then it does things that would be unimaginable any other day of the year. Take the Hadaka Matsuri, the Naked Festival. On a freezing winter night, thousands of men, wearing almost nothing but a traditional loincloth, pack themselves into a heaving, steaming crowd outside a temple. The air is below freezing, their breath rises in clouds, and then a priest throws a small set of sacred wooden sticks into the mass of bodies. What happens next is controlled chaos. Whoever grabs the lucky sticks and pushes them into a box of rice is said to receive a full year of good fortune. Thousands of men surge and shove and climb over each other for it, in the cold, in the dark, in a ritual that has run for centuries. This is the paradox of Japan in one image. The same culture that won't speak loudly on a train will, one night a year, throw thousands of near-naked men into a freezing scrum over a stick, and consider it sacred. The order and the wildness aren't opposites here. They're two halves of the same thing. The control is so total all year that the release, when it comes, has to be extreme. Number 8. where you can rent a family by the hour. In Japan, loneliness has become an industry, and what that industry offers will stop you cold. You can rent a family. There are companies whose entire business is supplying human beings to play roles in your life. A man who never knew his father can hire an actor to play him, to attend his wedding, to walk his daughter down the aisle, to be the grandfather at a birthday. A single mother can hire a dad so her child has a father figure for a school event. People hire fake friends to fill out a thin-looking wedding party. Some clients hire the same actor to play the same role for years. The actor knows it's a job, the client knows it's a job, and still, real comfort passes between them. There's another service that tells you even more. You can hire a man whose only task is to do nothing. He won't give advice. He won't really hold a conversation. He'll simply be there, sit across from you, share a silence, exist in the same room, so that you are not alone for an hour. We tend to laugh at this at first. Then it settles on you. Japan built a society so efficient, so hard-working, so careful not to burden others, that some people ended up with no one to simply sit with, and rather than pretend the problem didn't exist, they built an answer to it. Could you spend an hour with a stranger paid only to keep you company? Type 1 if you understand it. Type 2 if it breaks your heart a little. I read every single comment. Number 7. The monks who marry, drink, and eat meat. When most people picture a Buddhist monk, they picture a life of total renunciation. No marriage, no meat, no worldly pleasure. In much of Japan, that picture is simply wrong. Most Japanese Buddhist priests today can marry. They can have children. They eat meat, they drink alcohol, and many of them inherit their temple from their father, running it almost like a family business that passes from generation to generation. This wasn't always the case, and the shift has deep historical roots, but the result today is striking. A temple priest may spend his morning performing an ancient funeral rite that hasn't changed in 1,000 years, then go home to his wife and kids, watch television, and have a beer. The sacred and the ordinary live under the same roof, in the same person, with no sense of contradiction. And here is where it becomes very modern. Because temples depend heavily on funerals to survive, and because Japan's population is shrinking, some priests have had to become entrepreneurs. There are temples experimenting with new ideas to stay alive, and one of them points directly at the future of this entire video. But we'll get there. Because the deeper you go into Japan, the more every strange detail starts pointing at the same single problem. Number 6. The clubs where you pay to be adored. After dark, Japan reveals an economy of emotion that exists almost nowhere else, and it works in both directions. In the entertainment districts of every major city, you'll find host and hostess clubs. In a hostess club, men pay, sometimes enormous sums, not for anything physical, but for company. For a beautiful woman to pour their drink, laugh at their jokes, listen to their work problems, and make them feel, for one evening, like the most important man in the room. But the mirror image is where it gets fascinating. In host clubs, the customers are women, and the products are charming, elaborately styled young men who shower them with attention, compliments, and theatrical devotion. Some women become deeply, genuinely attached to a favorite host. They spend staggering amounts of money to climb his personal ranking, because the more a woman spends on him, the higher his status among the other hosts. A single bottle of champagne can cost more than a month's rent, ordered purely to push one host up the leaderboard. It's easy to judge from the outside. But step back, and you see the same thread running through everything in this country. In a society where people work punishing hours, where showing vulnerability is hard, where loneliness runs deep, someone built a place where, for a few hours, you can simply feel wanted. And people will pay almost anything for that. Number 5. The country already living in the year 2050. Step onto a street in Tokyo, and parts of Japan feel like they fast-forwarded 30 years ahead of the rest of us. Start with the vending machines. There are millions of them, roughly one for every 23 people in the country. They sell hot coffee and cold drinks, Yes, but also hot meals, fresh eggs, umbrellas, flowers, even live crabs. They stand on quiet rural roads with no shop in sight, unvandalized, unrobbed, glowing through the night, because in Japan, it would simply never occur to most people to break one. Then, there are the toilets, genuinely some of the most advanced pieces of everyday technology on Earth. Heated seats, built-in cleaning, sound effects to mask any noise, controls that look like they belong on a spaceship. After you've used one, your own bathroom at home will feel medieval. The trains are the real masterpiece. The famous bullet train, the Shinkansen, runs so precisely that when it is delayed by even a single minute, the company may issue a formal apology. Across an entire year, the average delay is measured in seconds. Seconds. But here's the twist that ties this whole video together. All this dazzling technology, the robots, the automation, the machines doing the work of people, isn't only about being futuristic. Increasingly, it's about necessity. Japan is building machines to do the jobs because, more and more, there are not enough young people left to do them. And that brings us close to the heart of it. Number 4. The places the maps would rather forget. Behind the neon and the efficiency, Japan holds some genuinely haunting places. Off the coast, near Nagasaki, sits a tiny island called Hashima, better known as Gunkanjima, the Battleship Island. A century ago, it was one of the most densely populated places on Earth, packed with coal miners and their families crammed into concrete towers on a rock in the sea. When the coal ran out, everyone left, all at once. Today, it stands completely abandoned. Crumbling apartment blocks, rusted staircases, a whole drowned city frozen midlife, an entire community that simply switched off. And then there is Aokigahara, the dense forest at the foot of Mount Fuji. It is genuinely beautiful and genuinely somber, a place wrapped in sadness and superstition, where the trees grow so thick that sound itself seems to disappear. The Japanese treat it with deep seriousness and deep respect, and so will I. It is not a place for spectacle. What strikes me about both is the silence. A country this crowded, this alive, also holds these pockets of total emptiness. Places where the people are simply gone. And once you've noticed that emptiness, you start seeing the shape of it everywhere. Empty schools, empty villages, houses with no one left to live in them. That shape has a name. We're almost there. Number 3. The dating economy turned upside down. Here is something that surprises almost everyone about modern Japan. In the world of dating and romance, the old rules are quietly dissolving. In the host club world and beyond, it is increasingly common for women to be the ones spending lavishly. On gifts, on experiences, on the men they're interested in. A generation of Japanese women, more financially independent than any before them, are rewriting who pursues whom and who pays. But underneath that flip is something more serious. A growing number of young Japanese are stepping away from romance altogether. Surveys have repeatedly found large shares of young adults not dating at all, and many saying they don't intend to marry. Some have simply decided that the effort, the expense, and the expectations aren't worth it. The reasons are tangled: brutal working hours that leave no time, the high cost of raising a child, the heavy traditional pressures that still come with marriage, and a culture where reaching out and being vulnerable is genuinely hard. The result is a country where romance itself is slowing down. And when romance slows down in a nation that is already shrinking, the consequences aren't just personal, they're national. Which leads us finally to the two biggest facts of all. If the dating rules were flipped where you live, where the expectations reversed completely, would you adapt or would you struggle? Tell me honestly below. Number 2, the largest human city that has ever existed. To understand Japan's future, you first have to stand in its present. And there is no better place than Tokyo. The greater Tokyo area is home to roughly 37 million people. Let that number land. That is more than the entire population of Canada, packed into one metropolitan region. It is the largest urban area in the history of the human species. Nothing this size has ever existed before. And the miracle is that it works. 37 million people, and the trains run on time. The streets are clean. The crime rate is astonishingly low. You can walk almost any neighborhood at 3 in the morning and feel safe. A city this size should, by every rule we know, be chaos. Tokyo is the opposite of chaos. But here is the dark mirror inside that triumph. Tokyo keeps growing, slowly, for one reason. It is pulling in the young people from everywhere else in Japan. The bright lights and the jobs draw them out of the small towns and the villages, leaving those places older, emptier, and closer to vanishing with every passing year. Tokyo isn't booming because Japan is booming. Tokyo is filling up because the rest of the country is emptying out. The greatest city ever built is, in part, a symptom of the very thing destroying everywhere else. And that is the number one truth of modern Japan. Number 1. The country that is quietly disappearing. Here is the fact that almost no travel video will say plainly: Japan is vanishing. In 2025, the country recorded around 670,000 births and roughly 1.5 million deaths. That is nearly 1 million more people dying than being born in a single year. The population has fallen for well over a decade straight, and the decline is speeding up, not slowing down. Japan today has about 3 million fewer people than it did just 5 years ago, the steepest drop in its modern history. The average woman in Japan now has around 1.1 children in her lifetime. To simply hold a population steady, that number needs to be near 2.1. Japan isn't close. And the gap is widening. Walk through rural Japan, and you can see the future arriving. There are thousands upon thousands of abandoned houses, entire villages where the last residents have grown old and passed away, and no young person came to replace them. There are schools with a handful of students or none. There are towns offering to give houses away for almost nothing, just to get a young family to move in. By the end of this century, on current trends, Japan could lose tens of millions of people, shrinking back toward a size it hasn't been in generations. This is the quiet emergency behind every other fact in this video. The rent-a-family services exist because people are isolated. The robots exist because workers are missing. The empty island and the silent forest are previews of a silence spreading across the whole country. And Japan is not alone. It is simply first. South Korea, Italy, Spain, much of Europe, and increasingly even places once thought immune are walking down the same road, a few steps behind. Japan is the country where the future arrived early, and the rest of the world is quietly watching to see what happens next. Closing. I came to Japan expecting the neon, the temples, the bullet trains. I found all of it. But I left thinking about something much quieter. Here is a nation that, by almost every measure, got it right. It built the safest streets, the most reliable trains, the most considerate public life on the planet. A place where you can lose your wallet and get it back, where a child can ride the subway alone, where 37 million people share a city in near-perfect peace. And yet, with all of that, with safety and wealth and order most countries can only dream of, its people are, slowly, choosing not to continue. That is the paradox at the heart of modern Japan, and it is one of the most important questions of our century. What is it that a society needs, beyond comfort and safety, to want to carry itself forward? Japan doesn't need your pity. It is one of the most remarkable civilizations human beings have ever built. What it needs, what we all might need, is for us to look honestly at the question it is asking before the rest of us have to answer it too. If this video made you see Japan, or your own country, differently, leave a comment and tell me which fact stayed with you the most. And subscribe, turn on the notification bell, so I'll see you on the next journey into the places nobody tells you about. See you in the next video.